All right, everyone. Welcome to another edition of What's What BR. We have returning guest Adam Knapp with us for the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. Adam, how are you, man?
Doing great. Thanks for having me back on. I guess I didn't screw it up the first time.
No, it's on me. You'd mentioned we were talking a little earlier. You're one of the original guys that came on from the show. We're almost 200 episodes in, and we were talking a little before. This was. And I love telling this little bit of story. I've watched some of the old episodes. You were one of the early guys, and we're all talking about the pandemic and what are we going to do and how the hell are we going to get through this? What's the next story and what's the next thing? And you can watch, like, if you skip, like, you scroll a couple pages and catch another episode, you can watch everyone's attitude kind of change. And I'm literally, like, if you go the last few months, like, you see like desperation, everybody just like they don't know. To like, maybe we're going to get through this, to where now people start talking, well, when the pandemic was going, you get the past tense. It's like, we're done with it at this point.
That's right. So, I love that. That's pretty fascinating. You've been a documentarian of the whole experience.
Yeah. I don't know that anybody really, I'm hoping that people watch, and that's all we can do. But
that's awesome. Well, congratulations. It's been a great run so far, and you're just probably still at the beginning.
Don't tell me that. It's I'm gonna get a co-host. I'm gonna find a co-host. And,
I was gonna say it's worked out nicely. You've got a beautiful kitchen, so obviously is where this show is panning out. So
we were talking. It allows me to afford the very large salad bowls. For everyone.
You can have all your hosts or your guests, and they can all eat out of two bowls.
Exactly, and we have nothing in the cabinets back here. There's nothing here. It's just a big bowl of salad, and we have some bottles over here.
That's right. Although those look empty, so we're gonna have to replace that what looks like 8 bottles that you drank last night with some new fresh bottles for the
Absolutely. I've got to find new friends too, because after 8 bottles, they don't want to come back. So tell me, for anybody who doesn't know, what is it? The housekeeping, the boring, stuff. We know each other, but what is it you do at the chamber, and what is it the chamber does?
Yeah, so BRAC is a regional economic development organization and business association. We serve a 9-parish region, the capital region of Baton Rouge, to try to drive economic opportunity for everyone. Our purpose as an organization is to try to do that across a wide variety of programs and services that we try to run. Obviously, we did a lot of different kinds of work during the pandemic, all still related to the challenges that businesses faced last year and early this year. But when you think about who we are as an organization, our 30 staff and our 1,500 investors, members of the organization, the thing they want us focused on most is what's going to drive greater access to opportunity for everyone across this region.
Man, you got that down perfect. I think you've been asked that before, so.
I think I've never said it that way, so I'm trying to do it differently every time.
There you go. If you ask me what I do, and I'm like, you don't have time. So diving into a couple things. Anything, kind of what's the pulse? What do you feel? We were, kind of joking around, that people are talking, pandemic in the past tense. I know it's not technically gone, and we're still all being safe and, boilerplate, here's the language, but, what do you feel? What do you see?
My arm feels sore. I got my booster yesterday. So that's a thing that we talk about now. No, I feel like there's an incredibly amount of optimism and positive outlook right now. We're going to do our economic outlook for 2022 in early December at our monthly lunch. And you folks can find out more if they want to kind of hear the data on Baton Rouge. You can go to brac.org, BRAC.org/events. And what we do every year is we try to pull together all the data on Baton Rouge in one place. What we see as trends, surveys of businesses, so some big census and economic data from the BLS. So what we do in one place is kind of a big snapshot of what's going on in the economy and what do we see coming for next year. But what it tells us broadly is Baton Rouge is doing well. Probably in some senses, our unemployment rate has recovered fully in the Baton Rouge metro area. And this is a shocking statistic that we saw last week. The number of job postings in Baton Rouge for October was the highest ever on record, according to the tracking we do with this software service called EMSI. 39,000 folks or jobs were posted looking for workers in the Baton Rouge capital market. And so as our unemployment has dropped, The number of postings have been spiking. What you see across the business community is there's a labor shortage, and there's incredible opportunity. And if somebody desires a job or desires to switch a job, there's a job out there for them. It's an amazing moment for what we see happening in the economy. And I think it's going to heat up, Brandon, even more in 2022.
Well, and I'm going to say this without trying to go down the rabbit hole because I didn't even think about it. And I'd probably love to have you come back on the show and us talk about it. But I was at a conference a week and a half ago for about a week. And one of the speakers that I actually know as a friend, and I didn't know what he was coming to talk about, but one of the things that he was talking about was, yeah, there's this labor shortage, that's out there. And a lot of people are associating it to, the pandemic. But what he's saying is, it's like, no, a lot of people, if you really know what's going on and if you really look at the numbers, we've known that there was a labor shortage going to be coming because the amount of, boomers retiring and people leaving the work. I think he said, I'm going to be wrong, but I thought he said something. It was almost like 13,000 people a day are leaving the workforce. And when you combine that with COVID, it just makes it even worse. But what a lot of people, he's like, you're not understanding. This shortage is not just going to go away as the virus goes away. This is not a virus problem. This is just a general, we're going to have for the next, he said, 10 years, there's going to be this labor shortage. And not to go down that whole rabbit hole, but do you see that? Does that have any ring of truth?
We've been scratching our head for a while. Why do we have so many job postings and still we haven't fully recovered as an economy to our pre-pandemic number of folks that are hired in jobs in the Baton Rouge market? So we're probably down still about 25,000 jobs compared to where we were February of 2020, but we have 39,000 job openings. Like what's going on in here? The best we can figure is a big chunk of that is what you just said. Folks who took early retirement or were already at retirement age and just chose to pull it off and say, hey, like this gave me a moment to reevaluate my life, and I decided this is a good time as any to go have some fun in my retirement. So I think we're seeing a huge part of these folks that just aren't coming back into the labor force, to what you just said, which says we really do have to focus aggressively on finding new pools of talent, getting really aggressive and creative about recruitment and training programs, and retooling folks for the jobs that are out there. The other fascinating thing is jobs pay better today than they did pre-pandemic. The general rate per pay has gone up, which is what you expect in a supply and demand situation, is that's going to happen. We think that trend is also accelerating because of these kind of workforce imbalances that are needing to be addressed. And you have a lot more low-end jobs that are paying better. So folks that used to be making maybe $10 an hour, now making $12 or $15 an hour. Most of those positions have had to increase their pay to compete coming out of the pandemic. So it's just a fascinating picture of what's happening across the labor market.
No, and I think, it's, I guess, kind of in the same vein, but kind of in another direction, because I could go a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Could really go down that, path. But, it's also, I was telling somebody the other day, like a big portion of our economy is, petrochemical, oil and gas. It's just, that's us. We've got a lot of that here. And a lot of those, capital projects and projects that I've been kind of telling people, like, hey, this is the bright side. Like, hey, we're talking about it. We survived it. We made it. Now's where all, hopefully the good should come out of this. There's this huge pent up demand. If we can solve this labor problem, that there's the spigot's going to open. I think
it definitely already is. I'll give you a couple of examples of that. One, we saw earlier this year, ExxonMobil make a decision for a massive $500 million investment in their Baton Rouge facilities for a modernization to put in place some capabilities their refinery in Texas. Their 2 refineries in Texas already have. That was expected but competitive. They knew they needed to do this. It had been rejected a couple of times by corporate when they brought forward spending plans on that. So it was not a given. It was something that was difficult to go make sure happened. That was the beginning of this year. Methanex, to your point, put their project last year on hold. They announced about $1 billion expansion, a new 3rd methanol production facility. And they, of course, put that on hold during the pandemic when kind of the market demand for methanol disappeared. That was just rampant. And it's not like it was gone forever, just the world needed to catch back up. And now they gave the green light a couple of months ago that they're moving back ahead with that project in Ascension Parish to build another $1 billion plant that, like I said, it was announced in 2019. Now it's being really moved forward in 2021. We just saw the announcement from Air Products. They're going to build a $4.5 billion what they call a blue hydrogen facility, which is to make a more environmentally sustainable hydrogen product that's used by all of our industrial companies as an input. But now they can make a more sustainable version of it, which the blue hydrogen represents the fact that they will capture 95% of the carbon output of the factory and store it. They'll sequester it underground, about 5,000 feet underground, and just a fascinating way to use Louisiana's geological advantages to attract in what is sort of massive new investments to help kind of this transition of energy resources that we're seeing across the country. So all of those kind of things you have to expect. There's just a huge amount of construction that's coming, and to your kind of what you're alluding to, there's just going to be a lot more need for workers than from where we are today over the next really 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, and weren't you guys involved also with? And I was, we've got, it's almost like it's old news now, like the Amazon deal, and their facility. I talked to somebody the other day.
Yeah,
I talked to somebody the other day. They still had not. They were like, "Oh, I hadn't been out there to see. Are they doing anything out there?" I was like, "It's gone.
It's done.
Cortana's gone." Like
that's right.
they're like, "Would they knock some of it down?" I'm like, "No, it is done."
No, we were excited about that project. It's been one that had been under discussion for a number of years, back and forth on how to put that deal together. It died. It came back. It's one of those fascinating, one of those fascinating projects. But it was exciting to see that announcement happen earlier this year. In short, $200 million replacing what was at Cortana with a state-of-the-art robotics fulfillment center with at least 1,000 jobs, likely more than that. That'll be based there, and they have already built out what you see on Segan Lane and what you see over in Port Allen, two very large kind of last mile and mid-mile kind of facilities that you have between those two facilities. Really fascinating to see what's been happening between those. Probably somewhere between 600 and 800 or 900 employees already at those two facilities, and then this next one that'll be launched and opened late next year.
And I think people forget about it. If you go talk about, what you're just talking about, between the air gas, between the Exxon, there's a lot happening here. And I think it's one of those, people don't realize it. They're just like, oh, there's nothing going on in Baton Rouge. It's like, no, there's a lot happening.
No, it's fascinating. It's popping. We've been enjoying a great deal of growth. For example, we got our census data since you and I last talked, and Baton Rouge saw much more rapid growth than our census forecasting had been telling us. We're now 850,000 in population. The estimate was that we were going to be in the neighborhood of 825,000. So it's definitely even bigger than we originally assumed, kind of before the census data was completed. And just it's growing at the high end of forecast data, which has been fascinating to watch.
Wow, I had no idea it was that big. Yep, I guess I'm looking at the wrong numbers.
Yep. The census was fascinating, and it shows kind of how that's playing out in all of our 9 parish region. It's just been really, really interesting to watch. The other one that I'll mention on our business development work. So we talked about the heavy industrial work, Cortana, which is a logistics facility for Amazon. But you also have growth in technology companies. In the last year, you've seen companies like General Informatics, both acquired and now making acquisitions in the software space. Just about all of our existing companies in the software space seem to be growing, that are kind of, I would call that domestic firms. IBM continues to be above the baseline that they had targeted of 800 jobs, and they continue to be doing well. And then we just had an announcement 2 weeks ago that a company called Rural Sourcing is locating a 150-person software development center. They have said they want to have that located in downtown Baton Rouge, and we expect that company has been growing rapidly. We expect them to be hiring up over the next 2 to maybe 3 years. So it's really interesting to see how the technology sector continues to blossom as well, and largely driven by access to talent, the presence of a growing tech sector here, and even more graduates coming out of our universities with degrees in that space. And frankly, more folks coming out with 2-year associate's degrees from our community colleges. There's a large and growing wing of BRCC. Probably y'all may not know about this, that is just focused on software development and IT services. It's been fascinating to see across all education that technology is really becoming a platform for everybody to focus on.
Yeah, and I think you had mentioned, that's where I was about to, you just kind of segued me there. Some of these, associate and degree programs are some things that's happening over, in EBR at the school system, right? They're doing,
I think you had
there's some changes.
The superintendent was on your show maybe a month ago or a few episodes back. And we have been really blown away by what his vision is. So interesting for us is he was previously the head of schools in Nashville, kind of the number 2 position in the Nashville school system. And one of the things Nashville has done that's really amazing is every high school has what they call a career academy, where as a freshman in high school, you start to get exposed to career choices that you may choose to go straight into the workforce after high school. And they can help you get a path that gives you the credentials or the certificates or an associate's degree that you need to be able to be employable day one after high school, should you choose not to go on to community college or a 4-year. So in East Baton Rouge, Superintendent Narcisse has been meeting with BRCC, LSU, and Southern about whether it's possible, we know it is, for him to have every high school student potentially on track where they could earn a technical certificate or an associate's degree while they're still in high school, paid for by EBR, instead of going to their home high school. They might be able to access classes, they call it so-called early college, at BRCC instead of going to their home high school, graduate, play sports at their home high school, but actually get a diploma while they're still in high school. I mean, that's just amazing. It's already happening in EBR. They've got a pilot program at Glen Oaks this year. They've got a pilot program they've been doing at Terra High School in partnership with IBM. About 60 kids are in that program. They're doing a lot of this at the Career Technology Education Center, where BRCC is collaboratively teaching cybersecurity, construction, nursing, manufacturing trades. And there's a charter school in Baton Rouge that has about 400 kids that go straight from Geo Prep. It's over off of Florida. They go straight to high school at BRCC. As a charter school, they're basically sending 400 of their kids over to BRCC already for this same idea. So it's very, very much real and possible. So now EBR is exploring what does that look like at scale. And so we're excited to see things like that as part of their vision for helping address what is this long-term talent shortage that you and I were talking about.
No, and that's exactly where I was going with that, is that it's almost, I don't know who's done the trajectory here, but like, do these intersect at the right time? When we've got Amazon spending hundreds of millions and we've got Exxon, building, and, can we get some of these kids, you can make a very, very good living, running through some of these P-Tech programs and getting out into some of these, plants, or getting into, some of these companies. And if you can start that early, can we have them ready when they're ready, to start hiring?
We're all working hard on that very mapping that you're describing. We launched or in the process of working on a partnership with EBR that has the 5 industry sectors that have the most demand. How do we get kind of a broad cross-section of business leaders from each of those 5 sectors? So think about med, pre-med, life sciences as a big, broad category of talent need. And so there's 5 of those. Getting the right kind of business leaders who are hiring, facing shortages, kind of doing forecasting, that they're talking to BRCC and EBR and LSU and Southern about what we need to see coming out of education and how quickly we're going to need that talent. So that's the exact purpose of this partnership from our standpoint, is to try to sort of map that out and manage some of that collaboration across industry sectors over the next couple of years.
And I think to me, the elephant in the room, and I think you guys are addressing this as well, is, we run these kids through these programs. We have, EBR pay for it. We work the partnerships. Now we got to get them to stay. Somehow, don't bail on us. Stick around.
You have a great segue, right? So we started a project about 14 months ago. Actually, we started it before that. We announced it about 14 months ago in September of 2020. This is one of those projects we kind of put on hold kind of at the beginning of the pandemic. We didn't want to wait too long, where we wanted to have all of our higher education partners, 2-year, 4-year, private schools like FranU, everybody that has a student enrolled in higher education in Baton Rouge, we wanted them to be on the same platform for job seekers. So we think about the old-fashioned experience maybe we had growing up, where we went to career services or went to a college, job fair, and there was really no intelligence or matchmaking or broad access. It was just kind of who showed up that day that you got exposure to, or over a series of events. That's really radically changed today, as you'd hope and expect. Today in Baton Rouge, and we can say this only as of 2021, every one of our higher education partners are on the same software platform called Handshake. Handshake is something that everybody can download. If you're recruiting workers from community colleges all the way through LSU, postdocs, it's a platform for job seekers. It's free to businesses to put their jobs postings on it. It's free to the students to search for jobs on it. And all of our higher education partners pay Handshake so that we don't have to. And so you can get on there and post jobs, or if you're a student, you can activate your account at any of these institutions on Handshake. What's cool about that, Brandon, is that for small businesses in Baton Rouge, it feels like a monolith. How the hell do I crack the code to get into these massive campuses to find the workers that I might want to match up with my open positions? And I may only have 2 positions open, right? So how do you make sure that you kind of tap into this platform? Well, Handshake is basically the tool for that. And so we started this partnership with all of our higher education partners to really set some expectations for businesses signing up for it. We put a bunch of money behind marketing this over the last year about how to find your next intern. And all of our higher education partners said they would adopt Handshake. They now have done that. We're either the first place in America or the second place in America that has all of our institutions on the same platform. So there's not many that have gotten this far to be able to say, we can connect our businesses and our students to try to keep them here so that those students know what jobs actually are available and don't have to guess or run into a family member or a friend who could tell them about a job.
It's funny, and people might think that this is set up, but honest to God, it's not. You said Handshake, and I was like, wait, hold on. And I went to the other screen and I started searching. I'm looking at an email thread between my production manager and some of our editorial managers. And literally at the first thread, I found that using the Handshake app is the best way to find, new, employees and interns, have a look at it, and they give a link.
There's a testimonial right there. So if you go to brac.org/handshake, we reached out to the company. We created a partnership about how to promote this to try to make it easy for an employer to learn how to sign up, activate an account. So if somebody's hearing this, like, oh, I want to learn more, go to brac.org/handshake. And there's a lot of tutorials and guidance about how to set up your Handshake account.
Yeah, no, I'm looking. This one's from our New Orleans office. She's like, yeah, we're grabbing interns all the time from Loyola, Tulane University. And then she goes in, the other one's like, well, I could forward you an advertisement right here.
Yeah,
for it. But I thought it was something I remember sitting in a meeting.
As of this year, it's also community college students, which only got turned on at the end of summer that LCTCS announced with us in May that they were also signing up on Handshake, which is why we can say I don't know if you know this, we have 54,000 students in Baton Rouge in higher education. Across all of our higher education institutions. This is a college town, and you can access as an employer all 54,000 of those students on one software app, on one Handshake app, which is pretty awesome. What do you think?
Yeah, she was just mentioning, you post it, within a day or two, the schools accept it and it goes out, and it's what's cool. You don't have, those 50-some thousand students. They're not on ZipRecruiter. They're not on Indeed. You're not going to find them there. It's an easy way. It's meeting them where they are on an app.
On a device,
is where they are. So
man, it also allows for a ton of data tracking for the employer, for the institution. about matching. That thing you just described is really a key feature of that. Is you choose which institutions your jobs get shown to, which students at which institutions. So you can turn on LSU, turn off LSU, turn on Southern, turn on BRCC. So it's pretty neat that you have that flexibility. You can turn on Stanford. Where do you want to look for students? So it's kind of it's amazing how they have really become the defined standard for this kind of job search for college students. It's amazing.
And so does this feed or tie into the program y'all did, the BR Works program, or is that kind of a separate, or these
So
somehow
currently they're separate.
they're cousins?
So we would love it if we could figure out how to make sure that job postings on BR Works get mapped over to Handshake. We haven't gotten that figured out yet with both of those technology providers, but it's a great opportunity, we think. So let me kind of describe, since you opened it, what BR Works is. During the pandemic, we did a 48-hour sprint project when an employer called us in Baton Rouge and said, "Hey, we're hiring right now. We got a ton of open jobs, growing demand." There's a company called Capital City Produce. You probably know the folks. Amazing company. They said, "Hey, we would love to have some guidance on how to get our postings more visibility." So we went and looked at it. And of course, Baton Rouge around that time had 40 or 50,000 folks on unemployment insurance, right? So you're saying, this doesn't make sense that it's hard to get jobs, kind of cut through the noise and get those postings in front of this kind of huge number of folks that are out of work. And so we created something that was a kind of a skunkworks project of links to open positions that are that employers were searching for people. And then we just started pushing the hell out of that on social. It became one of the most visited pages on our website during the end of the latter part of last year. I was about to say the end of the pandemic. But the cool thing is that it was a very effective and simple thing we did, and we updated it weekly. But what we recognized is that that's really not a very intelligent solution. It's pretty dumb, just like old Yahoo, a collection of links. So what we said is we want to have something that's a much more intelligent job search tool. We looked around and found that there's this platform where they're already scraping for Baton Rouge all the open positions in a given market from a broad variety of HR online tools. And they have a really cool feature that when we launch this next year, you'll be able to scan your resume. It'll, using optical character recognition, figure out your skills as a job seeker based on the words that are on your page of your resume. It'll then code those into the service. They've done that same sort of matching of words on job postings, and they'll heat map your resume skills to the existing open positions in Baton Rouge and tell you, hey, these are the 10 best jobs based on the skills that are shown on your resume. And then, of course, you can add or remove skills if you think you got it wrong. But it's really cool. It's kind of like a Spotify account for searching for a job. And so we're hopeful to be able to launch BR Works next year. We've got it in beta internally. We're doing some testing with it and talking to our developers about it. But kind of watch this space. Early next year, we expect to launch and make this available for folks that are trying to retool, trying to find jobs, or employers who are trying to make sure that they're focusing their search more aggressively in the Baton Rouge area. So that's kind of what BR Works is going to be coming out next year.
No, that sounds exciting because it sure beats. It's like there's this gap, right? There's the handshake, which we've gotten full buy-in on. And then you're left on your own, or you're back to the Zip recruiters. And I personally, I'm not a fan, the Zip recruiters and the Indeeds and all those big job boards, because I just don't know. I haven't had as much success with them. But I think if you can find, if you can tool that down, get it local, and then actually do some actual matching, there to actually make sense. Some of those other tools to me haven't worked as well. And this seems like this would be, it's something homegrown. And then you can get more adoption out of that thing at the end of the day.
Well, it's homegrown, and we selected with we think is a best-in-class software provider for a tool that they offered. They're only really building these out as kind of regional platforms. They have an enormous amount of labor market data, so they can also tell you, we know that a position for a software developer in Baton Rouge pays roughly $72,000 a year, so you should expect to be able to earn this much in this position. So they can look at the position, even though the job isn't posted with a salary, they can kind of help you get a guess on or a read on what's likely the rate of pay for some of these open positions too. It's pretty interesting.
Well, that'll be interesting. And I think that's one thing, I guess I'll bring up and kind of round us out here because I know you've got some things to do. But it's what you guys are doing in the community is a lot of people don't know about it. I'm even ignorant to a lot of it, to where a lot of us, small business owners, we're stuck and it's hard, don't get me wrong. I tell everybody, it's running a small business, can be difficult, but there's so many resources here in Baton Rouge that you guys can provide, that the city provide that can help out. I was talking with, Visit Baton Rouge the other day, and they were talking about like, look, if you're bringing people into town, give us a call. We'll help you set up a whole itinerary of what to do, where to go. We'll get entertainment. You guys have got resources, on, this data, the job matching, building. And we just don't know that. I think too many times as business owners, we're head down looking at, hey, this is what I've got to do next. I've just got to figure it out. You don't have time to kind of go look around, but I'd say, if everybody would pop their head up, hit your website once in a blue moon or come out to one of them, are y'all having meetings yet again?
We are, yeah. So we have a monthly lunch coming up next month. And we put them on hold during the Delta variant. We had restarted them, brought them down, putting them back on now. We started last month and expect to have a great showing coming up next month. And then we will have events all next year. Every month we'll be doing something so you can kind of track our activities over the course of next year for sure.
Awesome. Well, hopefully people will take advantage of it. I know you got a full team down there that's, that's what you're here for, right? To help the businesses in this community succeed, grow business, provide economic development, get everything moving. I think there's a lot of fancy words people throw around, the economic development, like I was saying, retention and hiring and talent. It's like, no, we're just trying to get business done and we're here to help.
We just need somebody to help us navigate through all these incredibly variable times, right? This is a lot of change right now, and how to have somebody that can help give you some resources and tips is a big part of what we're trying to do.
I used to have in my office years ago, I hadn't had it in a while, but I think I remember right. It was Bob Parsons who started GoDaddy. And it was a quote that he says, "No one knows true fear like an entrepreneur the night before payroll." So
that is right.
So, well, look, I kind of generally tell everybody, I know you got more important things to do than sit around and talk to me all day. So I appreciate you popping in here. We've kind of running through, seeing what's going on and everything you guys are doing. I think it's amazing and probably shouldn't wait as long to get an update from you every now and then.
Anytime you want, we always got more to talk about. And I would just say, for everybody out there, I think being positive and optimistic about the future, we can tear ourselves down or our communities down, but to our own detriment, rather than finding out the great things that are happening and spreading the good news, the good word about kind of what's going on in Baton Rouge, which is what your show is about. What's what?
Yeah. Well, we try to do what we can, right?
That's right.
All right. Well, I will try to put it together. I'll try to get with you. We'll talk about some of the stuff, maybe get a regular cadence, and we'll let you get back to the real work.
Anytime you want it, I'm ready. I've always got more we can share.
All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Talk soon.